Hello and welcome to day 92 of 100 Days of Tonalism. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy. You could also call me Mike if you like. And the study that we're doing today is Moonlight, Tarpon Springs by George Inness. And this is probably George Inness number 31 for the series, and quite a neat painting by George it is as well. Actually, I really like this study. I write about this in the blog post a little bit. It's kind of a mysterious painting. I really like this edge of the woods type stuff. I'd love to do more stuff like that myself. Anyway, in the last several Inness videos that we've been doing, we've been reading from the book by Nikolai Sikorsky called George Inness. It's a hardbound book, and it's quite good. It's one of the best all-around general books about George Inness. There's several out there that you can find. Just put his name into your Amazon search and you'll be off to go. As a matter of fact, you can get this book at Amazon. It's used because it's out of print, but anyway. Well, where we were before was on page 74. We were talking about Inness and color and being a colorist, especially as opposed to the wood engravers at the time. So, picking up on page 75, an incident recounted in the reminiscences of D. Maitland Armstrong, artist and American consul in Rome, who knew Inness in Italy and America, may indicate more exactly what was on his mind. This is when Inness was on his second trip into Italy. And Armstrong wrote, "I once met him in the White Mountains, very likely in the summer of 1875, and we spent several hours talking together, or rather he talked and I listened, about a theory he had of color intertwined in a most ingenious way with Swedenborgism." Emanuel Swedenborg was a religious teacher at the time and also a scientist. Well, actually not at the time. He lived almost 60 years before Inness, but in which Inness was a devout believer. Toward the latter part of the evening I became quite dizzy, and which was color and which was religion I could not tell. What Inness was working on, or trying to work out, in 1875, in other words, was a way through color to give artistic form to the religious beliefs that much occupied him. A few years later, in A Painter on Painting, Inness said, "A work of art does not appeal to the intellect, it does not appeal to the moral sense. Its aim is not to instruct, not to edify, but to awaken an emotion." And just as an aside here, I'm going to take a break. I woke up this morning, I'd had some, I don't remember the dreams, but it really occurred to me that so many feelings that we have are completely inexplicable with words. We have such gross terms for the way we feel, words like jealousy or sadness or anger or love, but these words really don't do those feelings justice, and the feelings that they're attempting to describe. Some feelings we have are completely ineffable, and especially feelings that we have in nature, and spiritual feelings and feelings that come out of meditation. Anyway, that's just an aside from me. And a brilliant quote from George Inness. He goes on to say, or the book goes on to say, it was the power of color to quote-unquote awaken an emotion, purely without instructing or edifying, that is, without addressing the intellect, conventional morality, or literature. That, according to Inness's understanding of the aim of art, made it such an important expressive instrument, and it was chiefly the development of a theory of color that could express his theology that, hold on folks, I gotta, there's quite a few beautiful paintings here in between, and strangely enough, I think this work that we're looking at today is probably from around that 1870 type period, so that's pretty cool. Goes on to say, inspired his interest in color and guided its use at this time, not the influence of other art, meaning that the other art he saw in Italy. Inness's concern for a formal language of religious expression was so great that color alone was not solely or wholly adequate to the task, and was not the only element of artistic form that he explored. In 1875, the critic of the Boston Advertiser said of the large painting Pine Grove of the Barberini, that's a very famous painting by Inness, which he saw in Inness's studio, it seems to be but an attempt to fathom and reduce to rule the mysterious and infinitely varying arrangements of the landscape. That's every landscape painting, friends. It appears to be an illustration of the laws of harmony in landscape as resolved and applied by our understanding of things. There is little real nature in it. Pictures, no less than poems, do not admit of construction by rules of logic and mathematics. And I think we'll leave it there. That we left it on page 78, and we have one more Inness in this series, so that's coming up in a few days. Anyway, thanks for joining me for day 92, and hopefully you've been checking out the other videos in this series. There's going to be 100, and they're going to be there for a long time. So if you're interested in tonalism, and I'm happy if you're checking them out. You can see more of my work at landscapepainter.co.nz. We'll see you tomorrow, and meanwhile, take good care and stay out of trouble.